The moment you decide to start releasing music as an artist can be thrilling. You pick your name, your style, claim your Spotify profile, and it feels like you're finally stepping into the footsteps of every artist you've looked up to. And usually that means you're doing everything by yourself. Collaborators can be hard to find. Not many people even know you make music yet, so you just start learning a little production, some mixing, make your own artwork, and whatever it takes to get your songs out there. But after a while, things start piling up. Now you're creating content, registering for royalties, booking your own shows, and suddenly it hits you. You can't keep doing all of this at a high level by yourself. And that's exactly what happened to me. It was a critical moment. I was either gonna quit altogether from the frustration or change my approach. And what I ended up doing was making a pivot that completely altered my understanding of what a successful artist project actually looks like. So if you're starting to feel this way, I want to show you how I got there and what I learned that finally made everything click. I'll start this off by giving you an idea of my musical background and skills before I started releasing music, the release strategy and things I needed to do when I first started, and how this all came together to inform my current plan. So if we go all the way back to 2016, I had just started college and I got this laptop. It came with GarageBand, and over the course of my college career, watched a ton of YouTube tutorials. I didn't know any instruments, I didn't have any background in music, but I knew this software really, really well. And then by the end of college, when I graduated in December of 2020, there was a pandemic, so I moved home and I got this warehouse job. So to make something happen, the first thing that came to mind was, well, why don't I just start releasing my own music? To hold myself accountable, I needed to come up with a plan, and the first thing that came to mind was, well, why not just release a song every 2 weeks, whatever you have made at the time. I had never done this before, but I figured, you know what, I might as well go through the A to Z process as many times as possible so that I can get some experience and then start to plan ahead for more higher quality things. And that was it. I didn't really have any expectations for metrics or anything. I just needed to get used to the release process and being an artist. What I did not expect was what happened on my 15th release. I somehow got onto the Fresh Finds playlist on Spotify, and my profile went from like 10 monthly listeners to 30,000, then 40,000, then 50,000 in the span of like a few days. I even remember going up to my friend Dylan at work and showing him the back end of my stats, and he just laughed at me and he was just like, so when you quitting? A few songs later, I landed another song on an On The Way playlist very briefly, and then also landed a lo-fi song on a Slowed and Reverb playlist. So the streams were coming in, and then eventually Spotify started recommending me to other people because it had enough data on who liked these songs. So the streaming really, really rose and kind of stabilized for a long time. But the one problem was my catalog was scattered. Some was electronic, some was lo-fi, some was indie. There was no artistic image or branding. You'd go to my profile and nothing made sense. And then after that first year, a lot of things changed. I got a new job, moved to downtown Chicago out of my parents' house, and so I kind of thought to myself, well, that went pretty well. Why don't I learn to sing? And then I can start making the entirety of my songs my own and make it a little more cohesive artistically. So I took a vocal lessons course and started to learn to sing for the first time in my life, and obviously thoroughly embarrassed myself and annoyed my roommates and neighbors. Sorry for that. But I really got interested in all the things around it. So I got into mixing, content, I got into videography, I got into sync licensing and networking and studio time, and as you can tell, everything kind of fell apart at that point. I really, really burned out. It was so scattered. In a single day, I could mix a song, journal for songwriting, come up with an idea, respond to people on socials, make content. Like, there were just so many different random tasks for me to do that didn't have anything to do with making the music. So when I gathered myself, took a break, and kind of looked back on the past 2 years of these really drastically different strategies, I had a bit of a realization. As a rookie, I thought if I was dedicated enough and had an airtight schedule, I could DIY my way through anything. And I was just wrong. I was very wrong. There are a million things that an artist can do, but there's only very few things an artist has to do. They have to be able to sing or rap, and they probably want to be a songwriter too. Outside of that, everything else is extra. So while my release every 2 weeks idea was an admirable effort, it was short-sighted. It's not a path that someone who wants a career should take. So then I thought, what would the career path look like? And so I thought about all of these singers and songwriters who would be doing it right, working on their vocals, who are working on their songwriting, maybe picking up the piano or guitar just to be able to make acoustic tracks, but deprioritizing everything else so they can hone their craft, which is where the value of everything is. This helped me understand that those people, when they hit the point where they start getting some royalty income or they start getting performance income, they need to invest in the people that finish the rest of the puzzle, that team that supports them. They need those managers, agents, producers to pick up these other pieces so they don't lose sight of those core skills that everything depends on. And then it hit me. I never wanted to perform. I never wanted to sing. These were just ways I compensated for not being a part of that team and not having someone who takes that role. All I ever really wanted to do was be a producer, be in the background, be a complementary part on that team. So I changed my plan. I started reaching out to artists, I started getting work on some projects, and immediately it just fit. And so now we're at the present day, and that's why I'm starting this YouTube channel. My goal is to share the production techniques that I'm learning every day and implementing into these projects to help even more singer-songwriters, and also just connect with people who are looking for production. So I've got in the description a link for a project planner form, and if you fill that out, we can see if we're a good fit for your next project. And it's not about me being an expert telling you what to do, because that's not the case. I'm still in the early years of my career. But sometimes instead of the 20-year veteran, it's the person who just went through what you're in right now that you can learn from the most. So unfortunately, I think it's true, the old saying that's plastered on middle school walls all over the place from thousands of years ago, that if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together.